So this is my new Blu-ray player. It's made by Sony. And what's really cool... wait, I gotta close the tray. I'll get to the tray in a second. There are some things I don't like about this. Basically the way it's handling right now is kind of a pain in my ass. Hang on a second. It does this from time to time. Hang on a second. Alright. So sorry about that. So with HDR, they didn't utilize compression. So what ended up happening is, for Dolby Vision, for example, that's the big one right now, that is a 12-bit technology, and because they're not utilizing compression, what happens is 2 bits get cut if you're using a 10-bit display. If you're using an 8, 4 bits get cut. And a bit of color is actually really a big deal. It may not seem like a lot of data, but in terms of color it is. That's what the bit war was about during the Genesis, the Nintendo Entertainment System, and the Super Nintendo Entertainment System and shit back then. And what's really funny is those consoles, and even this Blu-ray player, the bit depth, if it's higher than the display, will get compressed. And that's just not the case with HDR, unfortunately. On top of that HDR, to get 100% of the signal, you need a 10,000 nit display. So unless you have like a large venue projector that can do 30,000 lumens and a 1.4 gain screen, you're really not getting HDR for shit. There really isn't, outside of that thing, anything that you can do to get HDR. So letterbox is when you have the black bars on the top and bottom, and pan and scan is basically a piece of shit. Don't worry about what pan and scan is. It basically formats it to fill the entire screen. It looks like shit. But as you can see here, I've updated the color depth to 16-bit, so we're getting the BT 2020 color space on standard dynamic range. And what's cool about that is you get the color shit and benefits of HDR, but it's in SDR, so you get 100% of the signal. So if we go home now, and we look at... This is Small Soldiers, by the way. We're going to look at Small Soldiers, and then we're going to look at Lord of the Rings again, and then for a Blu-ray, we got Harry Potter. So, right off the bat, I can see there is some noise, so what I'm going to do is go to Advanced Picture Setting and turn that to high. Really not much you can do about video noise. That's just the way the film was recorded, unfortunately. On Poltergeist, for example, it's noticeable, and you have to put it on low on DVD, but on the Blu-ray it's more noticeable, and you have to put it on high. The other thing I want to notice is this is a DVD, so 480p, and it's being upscaled to 4K. So if we go to chapter here, So this is being upscaled to 4K, and it is being upscaled to 16-bit color depth and the BT 2020 color space. The color actually looks a bit better than it does on my phone camera, so you'll have to apologize for that. So yeah, um, this is why I don't fuck with 4K Blu-rays, by the way, because and I'll probably do a video about this someday. I really should be doing more videos, but with 4K Blu-rays, for whatever reason, and I've actually mentioned this before, is it seems they just made it brighter and didn't really give too much of a shit about how it looks. And unfortunately, Lord of the Rings is a great example of this. The Blu-ray has this stupid Instagram filter, and the 4K Blu-ray basically is just really bright, just like every other 4K Blu-ray. But that's not the worst part. The worst part is the digital noise reduction looks like shit. So I got the DVD version. And this is why I got the DVD version. Because with a player like this, it actually looks really good. I'm going to have to get my remote in a second. Because the... select a scene. So menus are still in 1080p. Or not. It's upscaling, so you'll have to give it some time. Honestly, I'm not familiar with Sony's fucking players, honestly. I've never bought a Sony player before. There are some things I don't like about it. Like the fact that the controller here also controls my TV, so as you saw earlier, I thought it was the player. No, it turns out my TV just switched inputs without my knowing. Let's go to the Nazgul. Uh, so this actually looks fucking fantastic. Again, the color's not really doing it justice on my phone. It looks a lot more blue on my phone, honestly. I don't know why. This phone kind of sucks. But the color accuracy is fucking incredible. Again, it's looking more blue on my phone, so that's my phone issue. But it's being upscaled to 4K, as you can see. So this is 480p being upscaled to 4K. And we can turn this off, because we don't need it on this movie. It's one of the better made DVDs. Again, the tint is really fucking blue on this phone. It looks more green. I don't know what that's about. But the color accuracy is just so much better in person than what I'm looking at right now on my phone. The phone kind of makes this look dumber, honestly, and more blue. But this is why you don't buy the 4K Blu-ray, because you can buy an upscale player and just fucking upscale it. Like I said, DVDs and Blu-rays are just fucking fine, and why spend the extra money on a 4K Blu-ray when you can just get a good upscale player and go that route. So finally, we're going to look at Harry Potter. That's the first one. And also, I'm going to have to get one of those books to put all my movies in, because they're making these cheap like shit. This is especially the case. I mean, you can kind of feel it because they put these stupid things in. And then other ones, they don't even hold the disc properly. So yeah, I've had 3 weeks with this player, and I've really been fucking around with it. It's just a great fucking player. Go to the top menu. I don't know what the fuck that was. I haven't actually watched this movie on this player yet, but I gotta say, it looks absolutely phenomenal. Again, the colors are, like for example, it's more realistic on the white on the staircase there than what's uh, my phone is picking up right now. And again, it's much more blue for some reason than what the TV's displaying. I don't know what that's about. But the picture quality looks absolutely fucking phenomenal. Again, this is a 1080p Blu-ray being upscaled to 4K. So the point is, why would you spend the extra money on a 4K Blu-ray player and all these 4K Blu-rays when HDR is still very much in beta, and quite frankly it looks like shit? Or you can save money and get a great experience just upscaling your current shit and save some money, which is what I prefer to do. One thing is, I actually did pick up the 2004 version of Friday the 13th, if this will focus. I don't know if it will. There it is. I also picked up The Expendables, The Last Witch Hunter, Red 1 and 2, and Kindergarten Cop, and a couple others. So I am rebuilding my collection. But overall, you know, most TVs that say HDR, unfortunately, aren't HDR. Like this fucking TV, for example, because of the fact that you do need that high luminance. So this is 300, for example, and HDR looks like complete shit. Linus Tech Tips video, for example, his logo looks like it's fiery Cheeto red because the color just looks like shit in HDR compared to SDR, because this TV can't properly display that signal. And that was actually why, even though I bought the Google Chromecast and the TiVo, there's the TiVo right there, I don't use them because you can't turn HDR off, and it makes the color in the picture just look like shit. And this is actually a common theme when I've been looking at the 4K Blu-rays on YouTube, is while the darks look amazing, the regular day scenes just look way too fucking bright, and it takes out any shadow detail whatsoever, and it just looks like shit. But, you know, the black levels, because it's a VA panel, Look good enough. I mean, it's not going to be inky black like an OLED, but quite frankly, it's good enough. And it looks fine. This doesn't have a backlight, so there are some issues with the contrast there. And because of that contrast, like if I go to Disney Plus, for example, you can see the color gradients in the rings. It's not really picking up much. I mean, it is on the bottom there. But, and then because this is a cheap V8 panel on loading screens, for example, you also have an issue with images staying around longer than they should. But I'm not going to spend the money on a high-end television, even if I had the money, when I could just buy a projection, which would look even better, honestly, and I wouldn't have any problems with blooming or whatnot. And the problem is a lot of high-end televisions are being made cheaper nowadays, unfortunately. So they expect you to pay a premium, but they're not putting in the work to give you a premium. And then there's the smart shit, which I didn't want in my TV, so, it is what it is. For $300, this 300 nit 55-inch TV is perfectly fine. The Sony S6500, I think that is. Let me actually go, because I didn't tell you what that was actually. So if you go to source, let's turn that back on. So if we go to settings here, what was the model number of this? The S6500, yeah. The BDP S6500. If you get something like this, it's actually phenomenal. It's just a regular Blu-ray player, won't play 4K Blu-rays, but it will upscale DVD and Blu-ray to 4K, which on a 4K display looks absolutely phenomenal. I mean, it could look a little better, the upscaling, but to do that, and that will be coming at a much, much later date, because I really don't have the money to do it right now, let alone the storage, but I am going to fuck around with it a little bit. You would have to use AI upscaling software. And the expensive part about that isn't the software, it's the amount of storage needed, because DVDs, for example, are, I think, like 10, 15 gigabytes, whereas Blu-rays can go up to 100 gigabytes now for the 4K ones. For the standard ones, I think it's like 25. So you figure for a 4K format, you're looking at 100 gigs. So that's 10 movies on a per terabyte. So, and that's if you're upscaling to 4K. You can actually upscale to 8K now. So, you're going to need terabytes of storage. And that's ultimately what I want to do. Just to make everything look better. Because I really don't like the way 4K Blu-rays are being released with the color accuracy and whatnot, and the color corrections just look off. And on top of that, they're just way too bright, and the shadow detail just seems to be missing in a lot of these movies. So I'll stick with DVDs and Blu-rays. I'm not upgrading shit to 4K Blu-ray. I'm not buying a 4K Blu-ray player. This is a 4K upscaler. It works just fine, as I just showed you. And for now, this is going to be my setup. Probably years down the line, I will make the effort of upscaling it, but that's not going to be anytime soon. And hopefully by then the software actually improves, because right now it takes forever just to do one, from what I've read. So the next video, I will talk about my new ThinkPad that I just bought. And that'll be the next video, if this will show, because I just bought a new laptop. So I'll see you guys in the next video. I'm going to clean up my room right now, there's DVDs everywhere. And I'll see you guys in the next video.